Welcome back to the MA English Cafe, your weekly dose of real, practical English. Today, we're diving into what might be the four most terrifying words in the English language for anyone in a professional or social setting. Tell me about yourself.
It's the worst, isn't it? It sounds so simple, but the moment someone asks, your mind just goes completely blank. It's this huge, open-ended question, and you're suddenly under pressure to summarize your entire existence in a few perfect, impressive sentences. It's used in job interviews, networking events, first dates, meeting new colleagues. You can't escape it. The pressure is immense because it sets the first impression, and getting it wrong can be so incredibly awkward. You don't want to sound like you're bragging, but you also don't want to sound insecure or like you have nothing interesting to say. Finding that perfect balance feels like walking a tightrope.
Exactly. It's a test of confidence and communication skills all in one. I have a story about this that still makes me cringe to this day. It was for my very first real job interview after university. I was so nervous. The interviewer was this very stern-looking man, and he started with, "So, Ben, tell me a bit about yourself." My brain just short-circuited. I had prepared for every technical question, but not this. So I just started talking. And I mean, I really started talking.
Oh no, where did you start?
I think I started with where I was born. Then I talked about my favorite subject in primary school, which had nothing to do with the job. I mentioned my weekend hobby of collecting vintage comic books. I think I even told him about the time our family dog won a local competition. I just kept rambling, hoping that eventually I would stumble upon something relevant. The interviewer's expression went from neutral to confused to visibly bored. He was just nodding slowly, his eyes glazing over. After what felt like an eternity but was probably 2 full minutes of me talking nonstop, he just cut me off and said, "Right, and your relevant experience." I knew right then I had completely blown it.
A 2-minute monologue about your dog in a job interview. That is a classic. It's so easy to do, though. Your brain panics and just grabs onto any information it can find. I had a different kind of disaster at a networking event once. A woman who was a big deal in my industry came up to me, shook my hand, and said, "Hi, I'm Susan. Tell me about yourself." And my brilliant, well thought out response was, "Hi, I'm Jenny. I work in graphic design. I like it."
That was it?
That was it. It was a conversational dead end. She just smiled politely and said, "Oh, that's nice," and immediately turned to talk to someone else. I came across as so boring and unprepared. I hadn't given her anything to ask a follow-up question about. It was a huge missed opportunity. These stories are a bit embarrassing, but if they make you feel better about your own experiences, then it's worth sharing them. And hey, if you want to hear more of our professional blunders and how to avoid them, make sure you're subscribed to MA English for all our new episodes.
Definitely. So, the key takeaway from our horror stories is that there are two main ways to fail this question: the TMI approach, too much information, where you ramble on like I did, or the UMI approach, underwhelmingly minimal information, where you shut down the conversation like Jenny did. Both are terrible for making a good first impression. You need a strategy. You can't just hope for the best.
You absolutely need a strategy. The good news is there is a simple, effective, and almost foolproof formula that works in nearly every professional situation. It helps you structure your answers so that it's concise, relevant, and impressive. It turns this terrifying question into your biggest opportunity to shine.
Exactly. And that is what we are going to break down today. We're going to give you the perfect recipe for answering, "Tell me about yourself."
All right, so let's get straight into the solution. The magic formula we're talking about is the present past, future model. It's incredibly simple to remember and gives your answer a perfect narrative arc. It's a story, and you are the main character. You control the narrative and you guide the listener exactly where you want them to go. It keeps you focused and prevents you from rambling about your dog.
I'm so glad to hear that. So let's break down what each part means. First, the present. This is where you start. You talk about who you are right now and what your current role is. You can mention your main responsibilities and perhaps a key accomplishment or area of expertise. It's your headline. For example, currently I'm a senior graphic designer at Innovate Corp, where I specialize in creating brand identities for tech startups. It's short, sharp, and immediately tells the listener your current professional status.
Perfect. Next, you transition smoothly to the past. This isn't your life story. This is a brief summary of your relevant experience that shows the listener how you got to where you are now. You should highlight one or two key experiences or skills you gained that are relevant to the person you're talking to. For example, following on from Ben's intro, before this, I spent 5 years at Creative Solutions, where I honed my skills in UI/UX design and worked with several high-profile clients, which helped me develop a strong understanding of user-centric design principles. You're connecting the dots for them, showing a clear path of growth.
And finally, you wrap it all up with the future. This is the crucial part that ties everything together. You explain why you're here and where you're headed. If it's a job interview, this is where you connect your past and present to their company and the specific role. Why are you excited about this opportunity? What are your career goals? Continuing the example, I'm now looking to apply my experience in a more strategic, leadership-focused role, and I was particularly drawn to this position at your company because of your commitment to innovation in the fintech space. I'm excited by the opportunity to contribute my skills to your team's success.
That is a perfect, complete answer. It's professional, concise, and tells a compelling story in about 60 to 90 seconds. To show how it works in practice, let's do a quick role play. Ben, you'll be the candidate applying for a job as a podcast producer. I'll be the interviewer. Ready?
Ready when you are.
Hi, Ben. Thanks for your interest in the podcast producer role. To get started, could you tell me a little about yourself?
Of course. Currently, I'm the lead content creator for the MA English Cafe, an educational podcast where I'm responsible for the entire production cycle, from script writing and recording to audio editing and audience engagement strategy. My journey into audio production began about 4 years ago in digital marketing, where I noticed a huge gap in high-quality audio content for language learners. I taught myself audio engineering and storytelling, and in my previous project, I successfully grew a listener base from 0 to 50,000 in just over a year. I've developed a deep passion for creating content that is both educational and genuinely entertaining. I'm now looking for an opportunity to bring my production skills and growth strategies to a larger, more established platform. I've been a huge admirer of your company's work in the narrative podcast space for a long time, and I'm very excited about the possibility of contributing to your team's success.
See? Perfect. It was structured, full of relevant information, and ended with a clear statement of intent that was tailored to the role. If you found that formula as useful as we do, please give this video a quick like. It really helps us know what content you want to see more of. That structure is your best friend.
Now that we have the structure down, let's zoom in for the final part of our session, the English lesson. We're going to break down the specific language, the vocabulary, grammar, and key phrases that makes an answer like that so effective. This is where you go from having a good answer to having a great one.
Let's start with vocabulary. The key is to use strong, positive action verbs. Instead of saying, I was responsible for, which is a bit passive, my example used phrases like, I specialize in creating, I honed my skills, and I developed a strong understanding. In your role play, Ben, you said, I'm responsible for the entire production cycle, but you also said, I successfully grew a listener base. These verbs show initiative and accomplishment. Words like managed, led, created, implemented, increased, improved, launched, and spearheaded are your best friends here. They sound much more dynamic and impressive.
That's a fantastic point. Now, let's talk about grammar, specifically the tenses. The present, past, future model lines up perfectly with different verb tenses. For the present part, you'll mainly use the present simple, like I am a designer, I specialize in, or the present continuous, like I'm currently working on. For the past part, the past simple is essential for talking about finished jobs or projects, like I worked at, I graduated in. But the present perfect is even more powerful because it connects your past experiences directly to your present capabilities. It says, I did this in the past, and I still have that skill right now.
And for the future part, you want to use forward-looking language. Phrases like, I'm looking to, I'm excited to, or I aim to are perfect. They show ambition and enthusiasm. Notice we avoid simple futures like I will. Using phrases like I'm looking to apply my skills sounds more intentional and professional than saying I will apply my skills. It's a subtle but important difference in tone.
Let's also highlight some key transition phrases to make your answer flow smoothly. To move from the present to the past, you can say things like, before this role, my journey began when, or I started my career in. To transition from the past to the future, you can use phrases like, this experience led me to, now I'm hoping to, or that's why I was so interested in this opportunity. These phrases act as signposts for the listener, making your story easy to follow.
One final crucial point is customization. The present, past, future model is a template, not a rigid script you should memorize word for word. The most important skill is to adapt your answer for every situation. Before a job interview, you must read the job description carefully. Pick out the key skills and requirements they are looking for, and make sure your past and future sections directly address those points. If you're talking to someone at a networking event, your future part might be more general, like, I'm always looking to connect with other professionals in the marketing field. You have to tailor it to your audience.
That's the most important tip of all. An answer that isn't tailored will always fall flat. So, to recap, use the present, past, future formula, pack it with strong action verbs, use the right tenses to tell your story, and always, always, always customize it for the situation.
And that is how you confidently answer, tell me about yourself. We hope this lesson helps you nail your next interview or networking event. Thanks for joining us at the MA English Cafe.
Take care, everyone, and we'll see you in the next episode. Practice your answer.